right. For those of you that are here visiting and are new, we are the Roots and Shoots Northwoods Garden Club, and previously Vilas County Master Gardeners Club. We've since switched our name a little bit, and we have a lot of master gardeners in our group. We are a group of people who love to garden. We love to share gardening. We love to talk gardening. We do everything good. We share a common interest. If you are at all interested in being a part of our club, we would love to have you. We meet once a month, and you don't have to know a whole lot. You don't have to know really anything. We're here to help you. So if you're interested in joining, it's $15 for the year, and you get to partake in lots of really cool things. And Val, there with her hand, she's our treasurer, and so if that's something you're interested in, you can talk to her later. But for right now, I'd like to introduce Mary Ann and Joyce. They are a couple of master gardeners from our group here, and they're going to do a presentation on microgreens. So take it away, ladies.
So what are microgreens? They're baby greens. They're tender, flavorful seedlings. It's when they first open up. They can be a vegetable or an herb. They can be harvested when the leaves are just 2, or you can let them grow a little bit to 2 to 4 inches, and then they're called baby greens versus the microgreens. And both pack a big punch. They are 40 times more nutritious than the end product.
And a lot of people don't realize that. You know, that's one of the benefits to doing microgreens for yourself in your home, is that you're getting a lot more nutritional value in these tiny little sprouts than in the actual vegetable.
Okay. And someone had asked me, well, what's the difference between microgreens and sprouts? Well, sprouts you do in water. You put in a jar. This was a mix of different, like mung beans and lentils and different things like that, and I'll pass this around. And you rinse them, you soak them in water for like overnight, and then you rinse them, turn them, get either a cheesecloth with a rubber band. I had the tops because I used to grow them all the time. I prefer this way better. And you would rinse them a couple times a day, turn them over, let them drain. No, some of these have gone past prime because it's kind of hard to gauge when they're going to be ready for Thursday. So these are what sprouts look like.
And so sprouts would be the germinated seeds without any of their true leaves yet. And like she said, just in water.
Some of them have leaves already. That's why I said they're past prime.
No. And how many days to become a sprout?
It depends on the plant.
Depends on germination, yeah, how fast they germinate.
Yeah, some could be 2 days, depending upon the temperature in the house, too. If it's warmer, they're going to sprout a lot faster. For microgreens or for sprouts.
So do they sprout right in that jar? Do you keep water on them,
no,
or
right
you
in
keep
that
the water
jar.
drained off of them?
No, I do it in the jar
Yeah.
for sprouts, without dirt.
Yep.
No. So that's kind of the difference. The microgreens are done in either dirt, or Joyce has another method there.
Yes, I have some just in soil, and you know, you can buy, of course, they're always wanting gardeners to spend a lot of money on stuff. So you'll see microgreen kits that are fancy that you can buy and everything. These little tins, you can get 5 or 6 of them for $1 at the dollar store.
Or free when you buy
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Free things are great.
Yeah.
But I used a screwdriver. I put a few nice big holes. So then I just put a damp paper towel down at the bottom so the soil wouldn't come through, and put a little tiny bit of soil in there, you know, seed starting medium, and sprinkled the seeds and let them go. Now this one, this is just on a nice little colander meshy strainer thing, that also from the dollar store. And it's just a piece of paper towel so that the seeds wouldn't go through the mesh. and with water. And if you come up later and look, there's a whole bunch of roots right down in the water there, and it took them days. I actually started these on the 25th of February, so just a couple weeks ago. And here they are, ta-da.
I started some sunflowers in this. If you've never tasted sunflowers, they're kind of buttery tasting. So I did bring
Oh, good.
scissors along so you can come up later and cut
Yes, and
anything
taste
and
any of them.
taste.
Some of these, and you'll see, there's a mild mix of what's actually sold as microgreen seeds, which are going to be commonly a lot of your brassica, kind of seeds, the cabbage, broccoli, things like that. And then there's a hot mix that I did, 2 of those,
Yeah,
and tatsoi.
yeah, like the hot mix would be some of your radishes
Yes,
or collard greens.
mustards.
Yeah, mustard, things
Yeah.
like that. They're the organic seeds. And some of the, I know Seeds for Now or something like that, they carry a lot of the microgreens in packages. But if you get the organic seeds, you can do the same thing with them.
Yes. And so sometimes it's a good use for, let's say you have some older seeds and you're wondering, oh, should I plant these? Should I just get rid of them? Whatever. Well, if they're anything like these, you could actually do microgreens and then you actually see if they're viable. And I would do something with the paper towel because it's easy. They're going to sprout in a couple days. And you go, wow, look, they're growing. And at least you can use them for something. So it's a good use of older seeds. Even I think she said with her bean seeds, those were older bean seeds that you had.
Oh, those were like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And look how many of them sprouted. There were some that didn't in that
Yeah.
jar. So.
But still something good that you can do.
And I wouldn't eat that bunch at that point the way it is now because it's past the prime.
And for me, I don't particularly care for the sprouts because they're too big, but I love microgreen, the little sprinkled on a salad. Some people call it vegetable confetti. But they're good, just like this, just snip them off.
Do they keep growing then? Do you get more and more?
Generally, no.
No, and if you did, it's probably going to be less than
No.
what you have. So some people just pull them neat root and all. I just snip them. That's just mine.
For your chickens.
Yeah, there you go. Or you can put it right in your compost.
Yeah. So the gourmet chefs, always use these on their plates to decorate things.
So you can be fancy without doing anything too extravagant, Let's see what else we have.
Yeah, those kinds. You can grow them in a sunny window or a really bright light or under grow lights if you have those. These were just in a window, and the first 2 that came up, you can see they're flopping. They want to go towards the light, so every day you had to turn them, otherwise they were all leaning. They were leaning towards the window when I picked them up. Some of these still have the seed shells on them, but they drop off as the leaves open. And generally you don't see the shells on these smaller ones.
Right. Go ahead.
Is there anything extra added to the dirt beforehand or anything?
Nope, don't have to fertilize them because it's such a short crop.
Yeah, and you can even use, they have what's called a microgreen mat, which really looks like batting like you would quilt with. And you can just cut that and fit that in there, and they will grow just on, well, they'll grow on a paper towel, so, because
Paper towels are
really,
easier.
yeah, they're really using just the energy that's in the seed itself.
I had one of those mats, and then
Yeah.
you have to throw it away
Right. So simple is good.
once you use it.
I do have, if you want to look at them afterwards, they had some slides from a presentation from the Wisconsin Extension that I did. Different crops that are good to use for microgreens. ones that grow fast, ones that are slower. They have a chart here with different temperatures, you know, some that like it warmer, and then one nice chart that has about how many days till you have your microgreens. So if you want to look at that at the end.
Well, and that should be on your seed packets too,
Yep.
the days to germination. And when, after you cut them, you can rinse them and dry them and then put into a sealed container in your refrigerator. That way they'll keep longer. I put a little paper towel in the container to collect any moisture. You don't want them too wet, otherwise they're going to get slimy and rot. So.
Some seeds that you may not think about using for microgreens, beets, carrots, and Swiss chard can actually be used for microgreens. And they do take a little longer to germinate, which, like Mary Ann said, they would also say that on the packet. Let's see. And some of them, there's a list here on this sheet too. Soaking the seeds would help, and that would be beets, cilantro, buckwheat.
The bigger seeds.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Have you done kale?
Yeah, you can do kale.
I have not.
No.
Yeah.
It was in one of my mixes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you explain what true leaves are,
Sure.
that term?
So, well, if you come up here later and look, some of these, when every seed that sprouts, will send up two first leaves, the cotyledon leaves. Those are called the seed leaves, and then it's the leaves after that that are the true leaves that come out.
And that's when you cut, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then is there a point where they're not good anymore?
It wouldn't be that they're not good, they're just gonna be big and unruly and, you know,
Leggy.
yeah. Then I guess if they got bigger than this, taller than this, I would just chop off their little heads and sprinkle it on my salad. Or you could, isn't that so mean? I know. You could also put them in if you were mixing up a smoothie or something, you know, put them in there. I like tatsoi in smoothies.
Yes.
It's got a lot of good vitamins.
What are other ideas that you have done other than salads and smoothies with the microgreens? Because I grow them too,
Oh,
and
yeah.
but I always have more than I know what to do.
Sprinkle on pasta, you can make a pesto with them. You can sprinkle them on if you're making like an herb bread.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Eggs, omelets,
Yeah.
very good. Yeah, yeah,
And you can put them in your soups.
yep, yeah, soups. And I mean, you really could dry them if you really wanted to for later. Although with microgreens, they grow so fast, you can always kind of have some, like Mary Ann said, all of these on their little tray were just sitting on my table in front of the window. So,
You had a question?
Comment and question. My son got me into sprouting, and it's wonderful, and it's so easy. And I use a quart mason jar with a lid, and it has the little holes in it. Shake it up, turn it over. Now he says to cover it, and so I always put a dish towel over it, and I don't keep it in any kind of light. And within 4 days, that whole jar
It's
is
full.
full.
So is that with just the mung beans to keep them white?
It's
Or-
a mix, it's a
Any
mix.
kind? Okay.
And the question is, when you do the microgreens,
Yeah.
do you buy the seeds that are already mixed with the various beet and kale and greens and everything? Or
Some of these were mixes like that I just happened to have. And then some of these, and I didn't bring, I had Swiss chard at home and some beets at home, and I couldn't get them all in my little containers, so they stayed behind. The tatsoi is just it's a green, like vegetable that I just like growing. I always have tatsoi seeds.
so do you suggest covering the sprout jars or not? Because I'm very successful with.
I never did in the past.
Yeah.
covered.
And I've heard that that's the best way to get, that they don't need light, that they just want darkness and the moisture, and they'll, like you said, go crazy in a few days.
Now, if you want like the pea sprouts though, with the little greens,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to cover them.
Yes.
And those are so good in salads.
Yeah.
Oh, they're wonderful.
And these that I did just in the water, I did put a dish towel over them because these seeds were just sprinkled on the damp paper towel and they would have been exposed to light. So in order, like these little seeds here in the soil were lightly covered with the soil. So in order for these to germinate at the same as these did, I had to put the towel over so they have some darkness, like they were buried.
Yeah, most of these only have to be sowed like 1/8 of an inch, just barely covered. Sunflowers a little bit more. There's a lot of sunflowers that aren't even up in here, so they sprout at different times.
And has anyone ever done basil, chia, or cress? Those are what they call mucilaginous seeds. They get that little gooey, gross. I don't do that because but I have a friend who does her chia seeds like that all the time and then drinks them. Yeah. It's supposed to be really good for you. That's all I can say about that. But I just wondered if anybody actually did. You do have to keep those moist constantly in order for them to make their little goo.
I eat chia seeds every day.
Do you really? Do you like it?
Yeah.
I put them in my smoothies. Yeah.
Do you? Okay, well that maybe I could get by, yeah.
And they all get stuck in my teeth.
Chia seeds and vanilla yogurt with honey and peanut butter.
Okay, but did
It
you,
tastes so good.
Yeah.
But they still soak up the stuff from the yogurt, so
Okay.
they're not like a slime ball.
so you don't get them slimy first though to do this? You just sprinkle them in? Okay, I've done that before. I sprinkled them in dry. Okay,
I mean, they do get slimy when
Yeah.
you're, but
yeah. It's just something in that seed that it's just their nature. That's just how they do. Okay.
Is there truly anything different between microgreen seeds and regular seeds?
No,
No.
because if you look at the packet, you're getting like my microgreen mixes, like Marianne said, it was things like kale, broccoli,
Yeah.
different cabbages, things like that.
Because you see them in the catalogs, seeds that are just for microgreen, or,
Yeah, just
well, they
Make
claim
sure
they're
you get the
microgreen.
organic seeds.
Right.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, that is one thing. I did find out that in order to be labeled a microgreen, they have to be not treated with anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
So if you're
Orchard.
just using random seeds out there, make sure you're not getting any that are treated, because,
They're treated for non-sprouting, some of them.
Yeah.
But usually, those are not
No.
organic.
right.
Yeah, usually.
And other seeds that you would not want to use for microgreens would be tomatoes, peppers, members of the nightshade family. You can't eat those early. So, potatoes, but you wouldn't do a
Yeah.
potato, but same thing.
Yeah.
You can buy mixes of seeds for sprouts, maybe for microgreens too. I'm not sure
Yeah.
Marianne would know
Right.
that. Like Handy Pantry is a really good source. They sell them at Golden Harvest, or you can buy them online. And you can buy like for $10 a pack of seeds. And I buy like alfalfa mixed with radish and broccoli mixture. And that's a really nice combination, and that's a really nice one to mix. But you can buy that pretty cheap, and it's called From Handy Pantry is a really good source, and that's the source that they use at Golden Harvest.
Yeah, the closest place
Yeah.
would be Golden Harvest to go get some of it.
Yeah.
And a nice blend, like she's saying, includes some kind of a radish or a mustard, something that might have a little spice to it, and then something that's more green, like a broccoli or a kale, so that you're getting a lot of good nutrients in there.
So those seeds taste like broccoli, or those little greens taste like either radish or broccoli, or the collard greens. They have that taste already.
If you have your tray or sieve or whatever that is, and it's there with water, can you just keep sprinkling a few more fresh seeds in there and they'll just keep growing? Or is it sort of like you do it once and it's all over?
No, I could probably, I mean, I think eventually, when you walk up here and see how many roots are just from this little group, I think eventually this would get clogged, but I could just take the paper towel out and start with a fresh paper, you know, for me, if I was gonna continue doing it. I think you could do that for a little while, Mary, but, you know, eventually you're gonna wanna swap the paper towel out. But they're so easy to do. And I've done them before in the past, and you know how that is. You get all excited about something, and you do it for a while, and then you forget about it, or you move, and then you think, oh, gee, why haven't I been doing these? You know, so.
Do you harvest them, or would you suggest just snipping all of your microgreens and then keeping them in the fridge?
Yeah, I snip them as I'm going to eat them, but then if I'm going to finish this off and not eat them right away, then yeah, I would put it in a little baggie in the fridge or a container. Yeah.
So with our tariffs that'll be put in place and things like that, our greens might be going up. I don't know how many are shipped. I know we get a lot from Florida and California area, Arizona and things like that, but how much do we get from overseas as far as our greens, our lettuces, our things like that? This is something you can do here and not as costly.
One thing that, when we did, for the 6th grade class, we did sprouts and microgreens at, for the 6th grade students over through the Vilas County system, through the youth, it's called Youth Options.
Yeah.
Every year they have a program where they do positive things for kids in 6th grade, a workshop all day. And we did greens and microgreens, and I was doing the greens, or the sprouts. And one of the things I found that I hadn't really done before was I had sunflower seeds that I had gotten from the feed store in Rhinelander, and I ordered the ones that were not treated. They were in better condition. I mean, they were more natural from a local person. They were a little more expensive, but we're talking 40 pounds of these things. And what was cool was she's got the sunflower seeds there, and it amazed me how good those tasted. You know, they were like, and just think about that you could 40 pounds of something that you can buy this, you know, like seed, and you'd have food for a long time, you know. And wheatgrass is like that too. You can do that with wheatgrass. I don't know if anybody's into wheatgrass shots, but you can do that with wheatgrass and grow trays of wheatgrass, and that's another thing you can do. But it's like she's talking about, if food isn't available or whatever, you know, those are a couple of sources where, like, that's a really cheap source of food that's readily available. But you need to get the good kind, and they had that at the feed store in Rhinelander.
Any other?
This might be off the subject, but when I was in Florida, everything in my Master Gardener area was hydroponics.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the same.
This is, yeah.
Yeah, and I wondered if that kind of technique could be used for that.
They probably do grow.
Yeah.
They do, yeah.
Yep, they
And over
do.
in Antigo, there's a big hydroponics.
Yeah.
They grow tomatoes and everything.
Yeah.
Did you
I have
that
a hydroponic
So
thing at
just sell
home,
stuff and
and
sold it
I've
to
got all
farmers. So
sorts
I never
of
got into it.
vegetables and herbs in it right now.
That's so exciting
Yeah.
to hear. Because
It's easy to do.
I had a
But you
friend,
can, again, you can spend a ton of money, or you can, you know, figure out how to do.
I had a friend who had a tent with the sprinkler system, and she must have had 50 hanging in there. And they had the most beautiful everything, radishes and everything in them. But
Yeah.
I just wondered if they, you know, the climate up here and the zoning would be a lot different than that. But and the
Well,
humidity.
it's all done inside.
Yeah.
Well, actually, there's another place, I'm trying to think, there's down in the southern part of the state where they took over a great big warehouse, and they have the hydroponics on these wheels, and they have these big trays, and it goes
It circulates,
around,
yeah.
circles around, and drips, and it just,
Amazing.
they have some where they actually raise the fish
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
as well.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, so I mean, they've really expanded this, it's really exciting to watch.
I even went on it was almost like It's a Small World at Disney, but it was hydroponics, and you go around in a boat, and you
Well, that would
see
be
that
cool.
it's growing all
Yeah.
through there. But that's Florida, so.
Yeah.
But no, they do have it up here, and they do. Farm to table, a lot of farm to table places get them from those types.
I think Hanson's had some even. When we did the tour there last year, they had some in one area. So,
Mary?
I had a question about the temperature, like in your kitchen or whatever. Like you can do this in the wintertime as well, or?
Yes. It says somewhere here, I have that 65 to 70 degrees
Oh,
is
And I read
perfect.
65 to
Yeah.
75, so it depends
Yeah.
on where you look for information.
Yeah.
They sprout slower at the lower temperatures.
Yeah.
So just like in the garden, when the soil isn't warm enough.
Well, you could probably use grow mats if you're trying to control the temperature too,
Yeah.
in the early. couldn't
Well, you could use a grow mat.
If you're doing it in a cooler area,
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
In a
like
cooler
basement or
area.
whatever. 'Cause some
Like
of the-
I could have set these three, say, on a grow mat, but then I would have had to have been misting them or watering them a little more often. I did keep, for the first couple of days after I put them in and watered them, I did keep a piece of plastic wrap over just to keep them from drying out until I saw the sprouts. You know, not tight, I just draped it over the top. And I'd walk by and go, well, I wonder if I'm gonna have sprouts for the presentation.
So you can put them on a drip tray and water from the bottom, or you can take a mister
Yes.
and water from the top.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't want to dump
Pour
water.
water, yeah, I
Right
used
on
a
it.
mister.
Could you explain again the difference in the nutritional value? I understand it, there could be more nutrition in those, but I would eat a big bowl of lettuce. I'm not going to eat a big bowl of microgreens. So proportionally,
Yeah, I wanna say it's like 4 times, isn't it?
Yeah, 40% more.
Yeah,
but I would eat 40% more of a bowl of salad than I
You
would.
probably,
Well, I read somewhere that it was like for broccoli sprouts, it was like, I think it's like what, one sprout has like, yeah, it's like 40 times the amount in
Yeah.
just like a piece of broccoli that you eat. So it's like if you just had a handful, you're getting
like a
a
lot.
lot of nutrients.
It's like you're eating out, yes, so like a little handful, it would be like eating that whole head of broccoli. Does that make sense better?
I think, yeah.
a 4-to-1 ratio.
Yeah.
4 to 1, but I
Yeah.
would eat 4 times as much.
Yeah.
Greens that I would microgreens. It's more of a garnish to me.
Well, that's what they're saying, like just those small amounts, it's gonna have as much as a head of lettuce.
So
or, you
one
know, a
part
head of-
microgreens, you'd have to eat 4 parts of lettuce or broccoli.
Right. So if you were gonna make a salad and you just had lettuce, and then you thought, oh, I'm gonna chop up this broccoli and sprinkle that on, you'd have to use more of the actual chopped up broccoli florets on it to get the same amount as a little handful of the sprouts on your
Are you
salad.
talking weight or bulk?
Just,
If you're going like this, it's.
yeah,
Yeah.
but just a little handful, like a quarter cup of, of the sprouts, say, sprinkled on top of your salad would give you the same nutrition as, say, a cup of chopped up broccoli florets. So you wouldn't have to add as much to your salad. Go ahead.
What about, you hear issues about bacteria with microgreens, and is that an issue in what you've ever done?
Not so much with microgreens, but sprouts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sprouts,
And you use a sterile soil,
Yeah.
like a seed starting mix that is pretty sterile.
yeah,
They recommend like a seed starting mix.
Yeah.
So that there isn't any bacteria
yeah.
in it.
You can use hydrogen peroxide for misting on your sprouts. I don't think you need them on the microgreens,
Right.
but you can use them on the sprouts. If you're concerned about bacteria, at the end of the process, you can just give them a spritz and then rinse that off, and you're good. You take care of the bacteria that way.
And you would have the same concerns even buying them, you'd
Yeah.
wanna.
They're actually a lot fresher. When you usually see microgreens or sprouts in the store, they're pretty pitiful looking.
Yeah.
They're like has-been looking, like
Yeah.
they were good last week, kind of. So
And
they're
usually
usually
there
out
when they
there.
put them
Yeah.
on the shelf.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if you want to come up,
Yeah.
taste some of these, please come up.